Thank you very much for everyone for coming to this panel today. We have a great panel here. I'd like to ask them to introduce themselves, establish some credibility here, just very, very briefly. I know, GRIFF, you don't need it. But I know you have a short version of your bio, so maybe you can run through that real quick. But we'll start with Hutch at the end here.
Cool. Yeah, hey everyone, I'm Hutch from Zeitgeist. I'm the CMO at Zeitgeist. So I lead up community and marketing for a prediction market protocol built on Polkadot.
Nice. I'm Griff Green. I've just been in the space for a long time, hanging out and building things for public goods like Giveth and Common Stack and DAppNode and all these kinds of projects.
Maria?
I'm Maria, and I'm everywhere. No, I'm the founder of Spaghetti, which is the Italian Ethereum community, but I also am leading the marketing of Summer.fi, which is the former Oasis.app, which was the former front-end for Maker. And yeah, I do multiple stuff in marketing and community, yeah.
I'm everywhere is my line. Go ahead.
Hey guys, my name is IRVIN. I'm a co-founder of Polkahaus and also PizzaDAO. If you guys have seen PizzaDAO throwing events around here. And I also run a gaming studio called OpenDive, and we build a lot of open source gaming infrastructure for a few things on Polkadot, other ecosystems, and our own IP as well.
Thanks. Hi, I'm SEJAL, and I'm kind of mildly terrified because there are a lot of people who inspire me are on this panel, so I'm kind of grateful. So I'm building community of GreenPill. GreenPill was a podcast started by Kevin Awaki 2 years back, and now we are building a community around it. Yeah, thanks.
Hello, everyone. My name is Charles WAYN. I'm the co-founder of Galxe. So Galxe is one of the leading platforms for community building. We have about 11 million unique users. But yeah, that's my background. We've been working on this for 2.5 years, working with a lot of teams. So want to share more with you guys in this panel.
I'm confident we'll get back to Galxe when we talk about tools and things like that, as long as we make it that far. But let's get started. Oh, and I'm Derek Silva. I run a community growth and marketing agency called CommComm. Been in the space for over 5 years, full time, and Hutch invited me here, so I'm very happy to be here. I'll open this up, or if nobody picks it up, I'll assign the question to somebody. But when you're thinking about putting together a community strategy and building a community around a product or a protocol, what are the major inputs you use to help inform those initial plans and the campaigns you develop? Oh, there we go.
Okay. Well, I can do it first. So, well, it's always important to figure out a go-to-market strategy and finding. It's always important to find your product market fit at the very beginning, because if you are not able to really find the fit of your product in the market, then it's hard to, which we think is the second step is the make your product to be viral, right? So the next step you want to encourage your users with your community is, first of all, finding the product market fit, and then secondly, get users addicted to use your product, right? And then lastly, turn on the business model. And then it's always hard. The first one is always the top priority, just because you want to validate your idea with the minimum budget available, and try it out and test it out in a short time frame as short as possible. So. There are different ways to do that. For example, you can use you can build a demo, right? You can build a demo, and you want to finish all with the budget. Seed run is the best stage for validating your product market fit. You want to have it validated within your seed run, not after seed run. But yeah, that's my take.
Okay. And Erwin, I think you wanted to. No, go ahead.
Yes. In terms of inputs, so for us, the way it worked was, we never really thought that, I don't think you always think of, let's build a community, right? Sometimes you always have something out there, and then you kind of observe how people are liking it, because people have this tendency to kind of self-organize themselves around something, right? So this is what we observed that happened with the podcast, and then we realized the need of kind of bringing these people together. So people are already out there, right? They're kind of talking about it, they're liking it. Now it's just that we need to create a means for them to maybe better organize themselves and kind of translate this into outcomes. So that is what worked for us. So not just starting with the fact that, okay, let's build a community, but you already see it there and then kind of creating that means.
So I think like there's different ways to put it, right? If give you a high level, if you're looking at it from a business perspective and you are trying to start a community, you sort of have to look into it. Well, are you trying to solve a problem with this community? Are you selling a product? Are you selling entertainment? You could always see it that way, right? And so from the context of Polkahaus, and I even mentioned also PizzaDAO, like we actually threw a few events together with Giveth, and GRIFF. From the Polkahaus perspective, really, like a short backstory was that Polkahaus started really in Clubhouse. If you guys remember that app, that kind of died out. It was pre-Twitter Spaces. Back then, I personally noticed, and my co-founder Alex, we noticed that there's a lot of misinformation and a lot of people that wanted to learn about blockchain technology, right? But they kind of felt like if they went up and asked a question, they might feel stupid. Right, and back then I was heavy into Polkadot. I've been in the space for like more than 10 years now, and I realized that a lot of the chats in Polkadot are like within like Element or Discord. They were very constrained, right? I wouldn't see a lot of things like criticism. I wouldn't see people just maybe sharing a funny post and stuff like that you often see in other communities. Because if you look at comparables like on the ETH community, or let's look at even Solana, that you guys know about. And you look at the Twitter threads or their Discord groups or their Telegram groups, people are either, like shilling Solana, hating on it, criticizing, right? But it's all taken in and growing. And so from that perspective, like the way I saw it was that I think there needs to be a type of group or a community that kind of just lets people come here and speak, right? But it's not only just about feeling stupid and asking questions, but also essentially learning or having people that share that mindset, right, over Polkadot and the value proposition for Polkadot. And so from that perspective, really, it was like, are we solving a problem? And for us, or at least for myself, really saw that we're solving that problem. We want to create a space for people to come and openly talk, right? And so you look at the numbers and the data. Right now, for example, like Hutch was showing me that, like the Polkahaus chat, like on average, I tell you that every morning or so when I open it up, it's like 100 to 200 messages or more, right? And you comparables to, maybe Element and so forth, and it's very minimal, right? And I tell you that the same thing kind of happened with PizzaDAO, and PizzaDAO / Red Pizzas was also launched during the Clubhouse days. And I mean, the way that I put it really, that the PizzaDAO kind of like fit the niche of just having people come together and be themselves. Be weird, right? You don't have to go to this kind of like, DeFi events or other kind of events where kind of like you have to be more formal, etc. You just come here and hang out. And so that was also like a need that was kind of missing, right, everywhere. And so now we host like at almost every major conference, there's a PizzaDAO event, right? People come there and eat pizza and have a good time, right? And it's also about giving back to the community, doing fundraising and so forth. But that's a way that, at least personally, when even I advise to other startups, is like you got to look at it from a BD perspective, right? Are you solving a problem, or is there a problem? Are you trying to sell something, right? What are you selling? Is the product you're selling solving a pain point, right? And then you could trickle down to the customers and so forth.
Yeah, I agree. So before being a community person, I was and I am a marketing person. And I think that from a very macro perspective, community in this space is very relevant because usually from a marketing perspective, you think about users, right? Because you're selling something to users, but in this case, in Web3, community is even more relevant than users because it's your roots, right, to where you build your marketing strategy. And I agree with him because sometimes a lot of projects make this mistake of not understanding your community and their needs and what they are like. This space is super fast changing, and we are also acting too fast sometimes in doing marketing stuff and deciding about your actions, campaigns, etc. We don't sometimes, we under-evaluate the importance of having a strategy before and knowing your targets and grabbing feedbacks from your users and community, and from there do like act. So this is something that I think it's really important to have the roots, which is building the community, in my opinion.
Makes sense. Griff or Hutch?
Yeah, I guess I would say from my perspective, I've had lots of different experiences with building community since getting involved in the crypto space professionally, starting in 2017, through many different contexts, like building a developer community, building communities within events, spaces, building communities online. All of those things are very much different in how you approach it and how you kind of involve the community. And what has always been important to me is actually separating community building from marketing into kind of two different perspectives of what you're doing and how you're building those things out. So from my perspective, when you're building a community, you're always focusing on the individuals at the community level rather than trying to like deliver. When you're talking about marketing, you're trying to send out a message to lots of people so they know about your brand and they want to activate things. Whenever you're actually building a community, you're connecting on a personal level with individuals that are at the community level, and you're trying to activate them and engage with them to get them to deliver some sort of value to the community that you're building. So I saw like lots of really great examples of the years of this like so I put together the Polkadot Ambassador Program, for example, and from the very early days, it started out as a very small group of individuals that were just like already involved in the community, but they didn't have a reason to come together. And whenever you start community building, what you do is you give people a reason to actually come together and do the things, and you start structuring the things that maybe they won't structure on their own to kind of help enable the communities grow from there. And scaling communities, obviously a totally different story and equation, but like it's always started out with a very small group of people that are dedicated to a mission, and then activating those people who are dedicated to those mission to allow them to get connected to other community members, connected to like other initiatives.
Yeah, and just like a word of warning, it's a lot of work to build a community. So like, you know, don't do it too early because it's a huge scope. So, I mean, I think most things were pretty well said here, but that's like one warning. The other interesting, as far as like scaling, I found that it's really good to, you know, build the community out of the community. You know, like the community leaders emerging out of the community is like a very natural thing and something that can be nurtured if you're starting to scale it. And that has worked really well in several communities. And it's about just finding where people can help each other. It's about creating that network, that web. It's not one community manager to 100 people. It's, you know, a community manager fostering a community to work with each other and talk to each other. Because if you do it any other way, it's going to stress you the hell out. It's insane.
I wanted to chime one quick thing because Griff mentioned keyword. I think one thing that I realized, a lot of people, they kind of confuse the concept of a moderator, like a mod, and a community manager.
Yeah,
right? They think that it's the same thing. You know, a moderator is literally someone who's there and checks if you said something bad or if they want to remove you, and that's it, right?
And those are important too.
Exactly.
At least depending on where you're regulated and like where you're incorporated and all that, those are 100% necessary, but yeah, they are different.
Right, and the community managers is, you know, kind of goes to what Hutch was saying, is that you got to connect with the individuals at a more personal level, right? You got to kind of understand them and see what drives them to kind of get them to activate. Because the key thing, right, if you're building a community, is not just that you go and hang out and talk about, I don't know, daily news, etc. You want to be able to activate them like either share with you feedback, give you constructive criticism, or even rally for you at present times. But just a quick note on moderators and community managers.
Well, going back to your point, Griff, about community building being hard, especially in the early days, what do you actually struggle with most in the early days of building a new community, or perhaps when you're actually trying to maybe pivot or try a new initiative? Like, it could be a really developer-focused community for a while, and now the developers are building, things are going well, and now you're trying to turn your attention more to the public.
I think it's really hard to prioritize it, and sometimes you feel like you have to hire someone new to take it on, and then they don't know what they're doing at first because they don't know what you're building, and so like starting the community out with someone who hasn't been like in the groove with the core team for a while, I think that's like a very difficult situation, and I haven't seen it work out very well most of the time. I almost feel like it's got one of the hacks is to just understand how important it is to build a community, and then take someone out of the team who can do it, who's been around for a while.
Yeah, I agree. I always tell to sometimes I talk with very good founders of projects, and they tell me, yeah, we are going to launch the beta soon. We are developing for 2 years now, and now can you give me some tips to grow our community at a dinner? And I'm like, guys, I mean, you should have try to involve someone from scratch, or identifying someone in your team from scratch that can help you with this, because the community is something that you start doing when you are still developing, right? And you create the hype, you create the FOMO, the expectations, etc. And then also, when you need to hire a community manager, it's almost impossible, and if you don't find someone already in the community. Otherwise, you can't teach how to build a community, in my opinion. So I agree with Griff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So we are still at very early stages of building GreenPill network. And so GreenPill network, one of the core things that we're doing is, building local chapters, right? So we have GreenPill Japan, GreenPill Mexico. So our community really consists of the people from these chapters who are essentially leaders. So what we realized is, I started onboarding chapters. So I used to go on one-on-one calls and try to, kind of activate them by building those personal relationships. But eventually, if I or somebody else keeps doing it, it just becomes a point of failure because it is dependent on one person. So one of the things that we've started doing, and which is actually really good, is we worked with a bunch of people very closely in the beginning, right? And did everything end to end with them. And now what we've seen is now new members who are coming in and kind of interested in building a chapter or want to start a chapter. The first set of chapter leaders who we worked with closely, they are kind of helping them getting on board. And this is, this is great because we don't really have to go and actively tell people, why don't you take care of this? Or maybe let me just do this on my own, right? So this has reduced a lot of dependency on me or the core team, and kind of people are taking it. So I think in the beginning, it's extremely important. You do need to, work with few people very closely, but eventually this will become more community-led if this is how it goes. Like, this is what is helping us a lot.
And just for those sub leaders, they have to feel confident. You have to make sure that they have access to people who can give them the authority to feel like they can take that leadership, because otherwise they will just be like, well, I don't really know. I think it's like this.
Yes.
And that doesn't breed new leaders.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I think it's all about kind of going back to Irvin's point, community building is, a lot of times people mistake it as like this moderation thing, and what it really comes down to is creating systems to allow other people to scale the community for you. Whereas, you know, you as a small team normally that's focused on building community can't do the things that the community, once you activate them, can. So it's all about like enabling them to take ownership of the things that can scale out the community for you in different ways.
It's decentralization in the end.
Yeah.
So to that extent, thank you, Hutch. How would you define a really healthy community? And that could include either both, or either qualitative or quantitative, or both metrics.
That's a great question. I think there's different success metrics that you can use to define a successful community at different stages of whatever your community's in. In a very small community with like very small group of leaders, like I think it's all about the people taking ownership and leadership roles, and then
Creating a DAO.
what's that?
Creating a DAO is
Yeah,
the answer for everything now.
Sure. If the community creates a DAO, that's a good success metric, you know. That, but there's like a lot of it comes down to really researching. Like I've done a lot of research in the past of like, how did successful communities, like open source communities, actually scale from their inception? And one of the best examples out there is the Linux community. They came from an open source background, and people could contribute from wherever, and they created like all these principles for the community to start scaling up and to actually hand over the ownership of things that people do in like an open source way. And I think crypto communities and Linux have obviously very similar principles. But sometimes it's objective and sometimes it's subjective. It really depends on what metric that you're talking about. But when you create a powerful enough community, it's something that's invaluable, which you can't really define by, okay, 10,000 members, this is what we want to get to. It's like you'd rather have 100 extremely quality members that are active in all these different ways than 10,000 inactive people that are just looking for something to get from the community, like whatever they can get from something. So that's my take.
I think things get really healthy when people start sharing vulnerabilities with each other, and like when it starts to feel almost like a family vibe. When you start developing your own culture, and you know, another good sign is if you can resolve conflicts. Conflicts are natural and they're going to arise, and every community is going to have conflicts. So having a clear process to resolve conflicts, and also a clear alignment on the principles, like the mission, vision, values. Like if you have all these things, you'll probably end up with a very healthy community.
Yeah. Charles, I'm actually really interested in your perspective. Like your Galxe helps you, find new people. Obviously, there's a lot of work involved to, make those healthy parts of the community. But like, do you have any sort of the quantitative side you want to talk about?
Right. So, in our experience, we focus more in terms of user community. We focus more on Discord. So, Galxe Discord has about 620,000 members, but we only have a dedicated team of four full-time members as a community team to managing the Discord. So two metrics we're looking at, which is very important. Every quarter we will have OKR for the community team. One is the DAU. So we care about DAU within Discord. This is actually a very tricky metric because Discord doesn't give you direct insight from there. You will need to have a bot to track. And how do we define DAU within Discord, which is those who attended Discord AMAs, voice Discord stage, or those who texted at least once a day. So people who do that, we will qualify. Well, they will be qualified as one DAU. So we have over 600K members in Discord. We don't look at the growth of the total members, but we're more looking at this DAU number, and we want this DAU number to grow month over month. And secondly, just because we have so many members in the community, and every day we have a lot of new members join. How do we ensure the scalability, right? Are we going to hire 600,000 users? Should we have a team of 20 people full-time on this? It's impossible, right? And it shouldn't be scaled in that way. So the second thing we do is the contributor program, which is like you guys mentioned earlier. It's very important. Galxe Discord has a contributor program over 30 people. You know, technically they're willing to do everything that our community team asks, as a helper, as a volunteer, but surprisingly they're actually willing to contribute a lot. Without a lot of direct incentives, right? And that's, to evaluate how many people will be in this kind of program, I think it's important for all of us to evaluate if the community is successful, because I see these are core contributors of the community. They're willing to do this because they are aligned with your brand values, the culture, and also really think this means something for their career. So yeah, those two things are our experience.
Terrific, thanks. Erwin, looks like you got something you want to say?
Yeah, I think, honestly, I have a lot of respect for community builders of products, like yourself, because building a community around a product is a very complex situation, right? I mean, because not only...
No token.
Yeah, so actually, let me reframe it. Like, Web3 community building and marketing is very obtuse, right? And like, I'll give you an example. Like a few months ago, actually, when we were still in a bit of a bull market, I went to an event in New York. It's a friend of mine. He had this protocol, and he had spent around, I think, $50,000 or more to rent a place to host an event, right? And he wanted to call this as part of marketing and community building. And it was a great spot. It was like super packed. Everybody wanted to get in. It was a pretty hot event. And I brought my data analyst that works with us, and I was also there. And she was like, I wonder how many people actually know about the protocol, or the name of the protocol. And so we walked around and we asked, hey, have you heard about X? They're like, no, what is that? Right? And so the same thing goes for community building, right? Because, in the case of a product, perhaps you want to host like in-person community events, or you want to host, particular activations, and you're deploying capital, right? And so you want to get something out of it. I think for the most part, most Web3 products or Web3 ecosystems, I don't want to say all of them, they base some metrics on like socials, right? Vanity metrics. Oh, great, I posted this tweet and now I have 100, 200, 300 likes. But the question is, how do you calculate, what is your return of investment on that, right? What is the ROI?
You don't.
Yeah, you don't. But for most Web3 products, a lot of people just do that. Oh, look, vanity metrics, right? I mean, and I'll tell you from my personal experience, like how I have a product that the community didn't kick off, but it was on purpose. And it was gaming, right? Like a year ago or 2 years ago, like I was getting oversubscribed rounds for one of our games, etc. But the interesting part was that the game wasn't even launched, right? Yeah. And so who was that community? Like if there's no game. So so it's like mad props to folks who are doing community building and products, but it definitely is it's hard it's easy to get caught up in like vanity metrics versus real metrics that bring active users or revenue to your product.
But that's why before I mentioned that for us Web3 marketers, the community is, I know that it's a different thing and I agree, but it's very, very fundamental, because these metrics doesn't mean anything for us in Web3,
I actually have this battle with another agency owner often, whereas I'm more on your side, Irvin, where it's like, no, I want real people coming in and engaging, and that's what really matters to me, and they're more about the hype. And I'm like, the hype only lasts so long. Like you
make a campaign, you could go big, but then you need real users, real supporters, real community interested in what you do. Charles, you were talking about like Discord Insights, like they have this Insights product. It's not great, by any means, but it's certainly better than nothing, especially once you hit like 500 people in your early days. And they have some metrics that are incredibly broad because they have so many different types of communities using Discord to build communities. But they do have some metrics, and I think for the most part they're pretty good ones, like 20% or average of 20 or 30% of your community members should be talking on a daily basis, and that sort of thing. And when you get all hype, you might get 10,000 people joining the Discord in like a few days, but
100 of them show up day to day. It's like 100 out of 10,000 is not good. It's not a good number of people to be rejoining every day and like engaging somehow.
We actually focus more on the growth of the increase of this number instead of this number compared to, we didn't track this number considered to the total percentage, because we do purge in Discord sometime, just to clear out.
I love doing a purge.
Right.
I love a good purge. Feels really good.
Yeah, you want to make sure they're all active members, and then based on that, we have this metrics defined, and I think for us, DAU right now for Galxe Discord is more about 8K to 10K members every day. But our Discord is a little bit different. Our clients, they don't use Discord. Our clients, we have a separate Telegram group for all the business clients. And we have Galxe Discord, which is more for users. People discussing a lot of different features, a new quest on Galxe, what's going on, what's the best way to get in, did they find any new projects? So it become an interesting group for quest participants, for airdrops, for strategies, how to build identities, how to increase my Gitcoin score, things like this. So we want to cultivate this culture, and that's why for Discord we only set this two. But yeah, just like you guys say, community represent a lot of things. Part of our Twitter users, we can also call them community. But we think community is more like that can really be converted into our daily active users in the product. So that's very important to us.
And I wasn't trying to pick on Galxe in particular. I'm just saying like hype versus real engagement is more of where I was heading.
But Galxe is good. I use it.
No, as do I. In full disclosure, I use Galxe.
Thank you.
As a user and as a space owner.
Yeah.
Okay, so we talked about goals earlier. Building different communities with different kinds of goals and user bases. Obviously, each community's goals are different. They could be user acquisition. It could be a support community. It could be a developer focused, or one more around user generated content. A layer 1 versus a derivatives exchange protocol. Are there any basic rules or guidelines that you think, or for building great communities that you feel apply to pretty much any community, regardless of what it's focused on? It could be no shilling, it could be, be nice.
One of the things that I think helped Ethereum succeed in the early days was separating price talk from the general discussion. Keeping the price conversation, it's going to happen, give it space, but keep it out. It's really like on Reddit, there were two good communities, the Doge community and the Ethereum community. This is like 2014, 2015, back in the day. And is because there was like the Doge community was just great, But the big secret sauce was that they had RF Trader. And they were very heavily moderating the price discussion. It just kills the vibes.
Yeah, I think
100%.
that goes to the point that establishing some sort of code of conduct within your community of what should people expect to talk about in this specific community, what rules can they adhere to, so that everybody has those expectations coming in. And you can make space for other places where there is price talk, speculation, whatever, but as long as you clearly define, here's how the community is going to operate, here's what we accept, here's what we don't accept, it helps establish that kind of just core goodness to the community to start with.
Yeah, okay, fair. Anybody else?
Yeah, I think similar to them. I think, so I had we have a gaming studio, and we had hired someone to set up our Discord. I know how to set up, but there's people who are like pros apparently. And I remember someone gave me, I would say it's an overly engineered Discord. It had so many channels, so many things to do, which is essentially kills the vibe, right? And I surely kind of learned also, talking to some friends who launch different games and products. It's kind of like you also got to embrace the chaos a little bit, and then derive structure from there, defining the channel for price talk, et cetera, and so forth. I've seen a lot of people do this approach where they right off the bat they kind of like overly engineer, like set all these like massive rules, you know, and the community's not even there, right? You kind of want to let the community grow and people to create their own culture first.
And 20 channels or 20 topics on Telegram on day one. It's like nobody's talking about this stuff yet.
Yeah, and that's a great point, to let the community define those, help you define those rules for you, other than like some that may be set in stone. If you really let the community tell you what they need rather than try and figure it out yourself, that's the way to start creating a healthy community.
Yeah. It's not, as per pertaining to the rules, but just this short point, just I realized or learned during my journey in building the community. I think it's extremely important to define clear ways for the community to contribute or participate. It can be very confusing. Sometimes, people end up in the Discord and they join the community just because, let's say it's GreenPill community. And then, when they entered, we realized, oh my God, we have chapters, right? But people who are not part of the chapters or who are not interested in leading the chapters, how are they supposed to participate or contribute, right? So I think defining that really helps in also kind of keeping the community in check.
Okay. And, sorry, go ahead, Oren.
No, I mean, that was,
Okay. All right. We're coming up to time, so this is our last question. Most of us, I think, pretty much all of us have been working in communities for quite a while, at least a few years, for 2018 for me, 2017 for you, Hutch. What major changes have you seen when it comes to the community building tools? So these are, if you have ones that are specific to the types of communities you like to build, whether they're like NFT communities or DeFi, that's cool, or maybe platforms that you think have changed quite a bit, or you've had to adapt.
So when we joined, I think 2018, Reddit was, the place to be.
Yeah.
Now, nobody cares about Reddit anymore. Fortunately,
some of that is Reddit's own doing, but yes.
Someone, yeah. But you don't build communities on Reddit, I think. Not me, at least. I think
community.
Yeah, what I think it changes. It changed a lot. It has changed a lot in terms of tools. Can I be sincere? Anything much useful. The work is still hard as because the point is that what improved a lot, in my opinion, is the relationship, like conferences, in real life events, how we organize these kind of events. For example, Dev Connect in Amsterdam for me was amazing, like a lot of super interesting and very well organized meetups, events, etc. This has improved a lot, and you start from there, in my opinion, from people to build a community. So this is my answer. And then, Galxe, these kind of things helps, but I don't think super cool tools to build from scratch
Sure, no problem.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool tools out there, and I think one thing that we learned in the crypto space is that having one monolithic solution for it is like the wrong way to go. It's nice to have lots of small little pieces, like the Discord music bots. I mean, it's a cat and mouse game, but they're so great, for building communities. Like we would have, what would be a boring hack session on something, and we call it a party, a parameter party. Come hack on parameters, We just call everything a party and throw the music bot in, and so like all these little Discord bots, I think, have really made community building really easy, and you can kind of like find the things that fit your vibe,
I guess the Discord soundboard with the Jamaican air horns doesn't really do it for you now.
Yeah, not so much. No. And like in our Discord, I always say GM, right? And someone recorded it and then put it as a sound bite, so they could just play GM when I'm not even there.
These are small, like it's not a big thing that it changed our job now. It's not like ChatGPT for writing blog posts, like nothing like that has come yet.
small things that matter sometimes, right? So back in 2012, when this is when I started my Bitcoin startup. I was like on Bitcoin Talk. That was like the community.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing like
2017,
that.
man.
IRC chat, you know,
Yeah.
Bitcoin Talk, etc. And there's a whole bunch of stuff with Discord and Telegram. But you know, one of the things that I've seen more and more pop up, really, like decks and stuff like that, is when people are trying to go for like the Salesforce of Web3. You know, so essentially been able to get analytics and feedback from Discord and Telegram because there's useful information, right? Like you can imagine if you have an NFT collection, or let's say within gaming, you want to know who's your most active holder. You want to know what that wallet holds, what kind of assets and stuff like that do they trade. And I think that's going to be, you're going to see more and more products like that pop up. I don't know which one's going to take the lead. You know, I think you guys have a great product, but that's something that's definitely coming more and more and definitely needed.
Yeah,
Charles?
so I think speaking of community tools, so Galxe is a platform for building community. By the way, we offer different features for you to, really connect your Twitter server and the Discord, Twitter account, Discord server, and then really track the activities from those members, and then verify them automatically, reward them with different things like tokens, NFTs, allow list. Or loyalty points or status. So I think, generally speaking, well, those tools, they're always there and for different places, for Telegram, for Discord. And on the higher level, something I think it didn't change, which is the airdrop. In 2017, right? All the coins, those Tron, Neo, right? If you guys were around, those projects all started with airdrop. It was back in 2017. You randomly get invited to join join their Telegram group, and you start to somehow can claim your airdrop. And now it's still people hunting for airdrop, but in different ways, right? Airdrop evolves, airdrop become an essential component in terms of tokenomics. Now you can see in all the new tokens issued in the past year, around 10%, at least 10% of the total supply allocated for airdrop in different ways, right? Some of them call it yield farming, liquidity farming. Yeah. It's also airdrop by rewarding you for staking, for depositing your asset. Also, they're just straightforward early adopter rewards or contributor, rewards. So it's actually a very Web3 native way, and I think we don't need to get rid of it. It's actually a great way, Web3 native way, but it involves. So we want to make sure you always attract the quality users. So tools like Galxe or other platform, you launch a Quest, you launch a long-term loyalty programs that can track activities, that can help you create new initiatives, combining the result from Discord, from Telegram, for Twitter, and on-chain activities together to really filter out who is your quality user, identify who is your loyal users, and then reward them for the long term. But you can do it before you launch the token, right? That's the best part. You can do it as long as you have your product launched, and then really have this as a long-term program for the entire user journey.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, everybody. We've reached time, so really appreciate it. Your time. Sorry, Maria had to take off to moderate another panel, which is why she took off all of a sudden. But yeah, thank you very much, and thank you, everybody, for attending. Appreciate it.
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, sir.